hello, and welcome. I'm Peggy, and today we have some special people in our studio. And we're going to talk about foster care and about children. And I have something I want to share with you before I introduce my guests from Miracle Hill. And if Queen Elizabeth can open Parliament with her glasses on, I guess I can put my glasses on to read this poem because it is very fine print. And somebody sent me this poem, and it's been in my desk drawer, and I pulled it out and I thought this is the perfect time to share it with you. And it came from Family Circle in '95, so I've had it a long time. If I had my child to raise over again, if I had my child to raise over again, I'd finger paint more and point the finger less. I'd do less correcting and more connecting. I'd take my eyes off my watch and watch with my eyes. I would care to know less and know to care more. I'd take more hikes and fly more kites. I'd stop playing serious and seriously play. I'd run through more fields and gaze at more stars. I'd do more hugging and less tugging. I would be firm less often and affirm more often. I'd build self-esteem first and the house later. I'd teach less about the love of power and more about the power of love. And it's written by a lady called Diane Lumans. I don't know where it came from, but it's a very beautiful thought and something we need to hold on to. I have people here from Miracle Hill, and we're going to talk about foster care. Sharon Betts is here. Sharon is the foster care coordinator for Miracle Hill. And Wendy Pace is here, and Wendy is a foster parent. Thank you for coming.
You're welcome.
Thank you. Miracle Hill spreads out into 9 counties in South Carolina.
10 counties across
10 or 9?
10.
10. Oh, okay. And what does Miracle, we hear the word Miracle Hill. You do so many things. Besides foster care, what do you do?
Well, Miracle Hill, as most people know, have been in existence here in Greenville since the 1930s. And we have just watched God take this small little ministry from a soup kitchen to 1 rescue mission to now where we have 3 rescue missions in 3 different counties. We have multiple thrift stores throughout the upstate that help supply financial means for our other ministries. In our children's ministries, we have a children's home in Pickens County. We have a boys shelter here in Greenville, and we have a Homes for Life, which is for our older boys, 17 to 21 in Spartanburg. And then we have been conducting and licensing foster homes for the last 26 years. And now we are in most of those counties across the upstate. We also have addiction recovery programs for men and for women separately. And then, of course, our Shepherd's Gate is our women's shelter here in Greenville. So, yes, we are a very broad ministry.
It's a big ministry, and it is a miracle, isn't it?
It is a miracle.
Yeah. And we're going to talk today about something very special, foster care. And you experience this.
We do.
Yeah. How many, there are great needs, I guess, now.
Great needs. Let me explain that across the upstate of South Carolina, there are currently 1,300 children in foster care. And we have probably between 500 and 550 foster families licensed, not just with our agency, but we work closely with the South Carolina Youth Advocate Program. And so together we are licensing foster homes. And of course, Miracle Hill, being that we're an evangelical Christian organization, we're looking to license Christian foster parents with us. And Wendy and her husband have joined on with that team. And we have 85 licensed homes right now, and we have about 45 others who are in process of being licensed at this time.
All right, now when you say licensed, what in other words, if somebody wants to be or thinks maybe they could become a foster parent, what do they have to go through?
Well, there is
investigations, I guess.
There is a licensing process, and it begins obviously with initial application and paperwork that goes with that. We then come to your home and have an orientation with you, answer questions, give you some information, look at where you would have the foster child to sleep, and begin those kind of processes. Give you more paperwork to do. Wendy's been through all of that. And also then there would be some training classes. Part of that paperwork also includes background checks.
Oh, yeah.
Lots of those things to go through.
Careful.
And be very careful where we place children. And then to sum it all up, we put it in a home study kind of, I tell people, a big term paper, all about your life from beginning to now, and very different categories to discuss with you. But that wraps it up into a home study, and then we submit that to the state, and they're the ones who actually issue the license for us to be able to place children in your home.
And you are a Christian organization.
Yes, we are.
So you look for Christian homes
Yes,
to put
we do.
these children. And where do you find these kids? I'm going to talk to you in just a minute and find out all about what you do. But where does Miracle Hill find the children that need help?
Well, the children that we serve come from and are removed from and given to the custody of Department of Social Services.
Okay.
So the police are involved in a lot of that. Sometimes the judges do, and the court orders a child into foster care because of something that the parent has done, either in abuse or neglect category, that raises to that level in the state law. So when DSS then gets these children into custody, they're responsible for finding a place for them. So they call the South Carolina Youth Advocate Program, and that's where we work very closely with them to then find homes that would be suitable for them, for the child that is coming into foster care.
Anybody who's been a parent knows being a parent is not an easy job. And then if you have children who obviously have been through, some of them, I guess, great trauma, that's where I want to ask you. How did you and your husband come to this, Wendy?
Well, currently for foster care, we have adopted 3 children previous, and each time we think that we're finished, and God has come back and said, no, you're not. And honestly, once He opens your eyes to the plight of these children and to what His heart is for these children, for the orphans, you can't turn back. You have to do whatever your part is, whatever you can do to help them. So, once again, we felt that God was calling us forward, even though we truly thought we were too old to take in more children. And so that's how we ended up back here.
Okay, now tell me about you have 2 sons?
We have 2 sons who are 18 and 20, and we adopted them through DSS foster care at 2 and 4. And then we have a daughter who is 9, and we adopted her from China at 11 months.
So these are yours. They're legally adopted.
They are.
And then you have foster children who are not legally your children,
That's
but
true.
you take care of them. Is that
That's
correct?
right? We have a 3-year-old and a 9-month-old.
You are a busy lady.
It is a very busy household.
That's unbelievable. And these children that you have now have been, how do I want to say this, troubled. I mean, they come from situations that are not ideal.
Right. All of the children in foster care are from either abuse or neglect.
And so that takes an extra amount of
It
love.
does. It does. They have lots and lots of healing to do, and they need a strong, stable family environment to do that healing in.
All right, do you know in advance how long you're going to keep these children? Or
No.
if you take a child and then you become attached to that child, and then they come and say, well, the situation has been resolved, the child's leaving, that's traumatic, isn't it?
It is hard, but it's so necessary, and you have a real opportunity in whatever period of time that is to make a difference in that child's life and maybe even in their family's life. So it is very hard. You have to put the child's needs above your own.
We also look at it in the fact that God has loaned every child to us.
That's true.
Whether that be our birth children or Wendy's adopted children or our foster children, and that God does give them to us for a certain period of time, and He's never promised how long that would be. But while we have them, as you read in your poem today, we have the opportunity to play and to teach and to love and to share Christ, and that is huge when it comes to these children who've been through trauma and abuse.
It's unbelievable. And how many children do you have now that need a home and don't have one? Do you have a waiting list for people who would take a child in?
Well, yes and no. We have children who come into foster care, and if a foster home is not able to be found for them, typically the DSS worker would then begin to look at shelters, group homes across the state. It doesn't necessarily mean it's going to be here in the upstate either. They may be sent to Columbia or to Rock Hill or somewhere else. So they have to find a home for these children, whether that be an emergency shelter or a group home kind of situation. But there's always children in those shelters that if there were enough foster families, they would have a home. That is true. So the number of how many children are needed, I don't have a pinpointed number, but yes, there's always what we call our pending list of children who may be sitting somewhere, either in a group home, a shelter, perhaps in another foster home that needs to be moved or have a home provided for them. And then, of course, it could be today we get calls for 14 new children that come in. We really don't know from day to day what the need of new children.
So it changes every day.
Yes.
And are these children up for adoption? That was the other thing. If a family, do they know ahead of time this child could be adopted? How do you know?
Well, sometimes the foster children do become eligible for adoption if the parental rights are terminated. But aside from the children who will be returned to their parents, there are many, many children in the South Carolina foster care system that are eligible for adoption and are waiting for families to come forward for them.
Okay, now we have to go to a break, but I want to ask you one more question before we do. We have all this, you can't pray in school, you can't do, it's almost become difficult to say I'm a Christian, And do you get these kids from DSS? Do they require that you state this is a Christian home, or is somebody objecting to the fact that the child could be placed in a Christian home and taught about Jesus Christ?
Not to this point. We haven't had that problem in the 25 or 26 years that I've been involved with Miracle Hill, and the last 17 years in foster care that I've been working with Miracle Hill, we have not had that issue.
Thank God. Okay, we're going to a quick break and we'll be right back. Stay with us.